Hi everyone, I'm NiniFC and this is Blue Lines TV, and today I'm bringing you guys a match preview for the game against Manchester United tomorrow at 4:30 PM. And today I'm bringing you guys a special guest, the Football Terrace. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hello everyone, I'm Terry Flewers from the Football Terrace. Come check out my channel. We're not based at any one particular club, so we talk Chelsea, Man United, Tottenham, predominantly the big sides in the UK. We look at all sorts of topics in football. Come over, give us your views, give us your opinions. I'm not easily offended, so give me your feedback as well, and we'll welcome you over there with a nice little click of our subscribe button.
You know what? I'm not too excited for their game on Sunday because I'm not expecting it to be too exciting. I have a feeling that, you know, Conte's under pressure. Mourinho, I wouldn't say he's necessarily under pressure, but there's definitely some negative feedback that he's receiving at this moment in time. You know, Mourinho knows how to stop our system. Conte knows how to play against Mourinho. I see these two cancelling each other out, and I think that it might end up being a ball draw. But what's your thoughts and opinions on what's going to happen tomorrow?
Look, I think that there has definitely been some animosity between the two managers. Jose Mourinho is up to his old tricks again. I think he'd mentioned again in another interview about crying about injuries. And I don't actually know if he's talking about Conte, because I think we saw that after the first incident where he mentioned crying over injuries, some of the press went straight to Conte and brought it up and made him feel that Jose's comments were about him. But some press in Liverpool did the same thing with Jurgen Klopp. So he's kind of just sort of sporadically shooting at the moment, Jose Mourinho, and sort of creating a little bit of a hullabaloo. There have been pressures placed on Man United and Jose surrounding the style of football ever since the return of the last international break, as we're about to embark on another. The performances haven't been brilliant from United's point of view, but in that time only sort of losing to Huddersfield, which was a really bad game, but still pretty much getting results, and especially after the match against the game against Tottenham, beating them, and then Spurs go on to absolutely annihilate Real Madrid. So obviously during that time, you know, poor performances. Only sort of real blotch in terms of defeats came against Huddersfield, which was a poor display and a poor result. But Jose Mourinho has come under criticism because he doesn't open up and he doesn't attack against the bigger sides he plays, whether it's Liverpool, Tottenham. So there's also that fear in some people that he's going to make it a ball draw, he's going to be negative at Stamford Bridge, which I'm 99% sure he'll do. Man United won't go all out attack, they won't open up massively against Chelsea, they'll be pragmatic in their approach. But I think what Jose Mourinho is doing, he's playing with the media, he's playing with his detractors and people that dislike him, and he's simply doing that by what he always does. He's just sort of pointing things out, such as, you know, Spurs smashed Liverpool and Spurs smashed Real Madrid, but we stopped them from scoring, albeit no Harry Kane in the side, but we stopped them from scoring. We beat them. Where's our praise? We're not such a bad team. And look, and I think Jose in his heart of hearts knows that if they opened up against those sides, they may have lost. I think he also knows that he doesn't have though again, people talk about the money Jose Mourinho has spent compared to maybe what Liverpool or Spurs have spent on players, but I keep sort of beating this point to people that that's all well and good talking about what it costs to build your squad, but what we should really be looking at is the valuation. And the valuation of Spurs' attacking players, Man United's attacking players, and Liverpool's, the valuation is very, very similar. However, Spurs and Liverpool attack better than Manchester United do. That's why we were more pragmatic against them and we played them on the counter-attack. The difference between those two games is that against Liverpool, Man United couldn't string a pass together. So there has been criticism. The journalists and the press are absolutely... It's interesting. It's probably the toughest time Jose Mourinho has had as Manchester United manager. But actually we're sitting second in the league, 4 wins in 4 in the Champions League, still in the League Cup. I think we're second most goals in the Premier League, best defence in the Premier League. When you start looking at the actual facts of the matter, Man United are in the best position that we've been in since Sir Alex Ferguson, the best squad since Sir Alex Ferguson, and we still have players such as Pogba, Carrick, Fellaini and Zlatan to come back into this side to make us stronger. So it's a lot of negativity from the press, but when you break that all down, yes, there have been some poor performances. No one's going to deny that. But every team goes through poor performances. We've still delivered and picked up 3 points in the majority of those poor games. Got through cup competitions, won in the Champions League. So as a Man United fan, I've been encouraged by that. Conte's situation on the other hand, and I'll put that one back to you. Do you feel like his media attention and pressure from fans, do you think it's a little bit unwarranted?
Unwarranted. I'm not too, honestly, I don't know. I'm of the belief that I feel that, you know, managers should take more responsibility for what happens. I mean, I know circumstances with injuries haven't helped, but at the same time, certain games like against Man City, was that tactical approach needed? Of course not. Not using certain players in certain positions, misusing the team, using players that are definitely injured or tired, like a David Luiz, when you've got a Christensen who's there to replace. And I feel that the manager sees that, he knows what he has to do, but again, with his philosophy and his ideals, and of course he's an Italian manager too, they tend to go for experience over anything, and I kind of feel that, you know, I think they're the cause of their own problems sometimes. And I don't know, it seems to be a pattern as us fans, we tend to see the mistakes already, especially, you know, for example, seeing a lineup before the game starts, you already have that sinking feeling, that's not going to work out. What are you doing? Why is this person playing here, that player playing there? And it's very rare that people are, you know, made to look stupid because the manager got it right. And I think the Roma game was an example when we play them away from home. And I just feel that any pressure he's receiving, he's just doing it to himself, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think that the one thing Conte has done, which I completely disagree with, there has been a change in system, which, whether or not he felt that towards the end of last season teams had worked them out, because although you were so far ahead of everybody else, in the closing 6 weeks of the campaign away at Manchester United was an example. There were some games where you went on a very long run where you kept on conceding goals towards the end of last season. Maybe Conte felt, we've been kind of sussed out. People have worked out. And this is the thing with certain tactics. What we don't realise as fans is that the big clubs especially will have their coaches and tacticians watching hours and hours of footage and analysing every second and millimetre of how Chelsea play. And as soon as a team beats them or scores a goal against them, they pull on that thread and see whether they can make the whole thing fall apart. And potentially Conte felt like that happened, and he's now trying to find a new system that's stronger, faster, has more solidity as a side, and they haven't found that. At the same time as now having to play in 2 big competitions, playing twice a week, coupled in, this is 3 things, it's more than 2, but with your leader John Terry going, the dogmatic and dark arts, along with the quality that he brought in Diego Costa. And then probably the biggest mistake of all of them, because I think that maybe, and you were a big advocate of his, but Chelsea fans never seem bothered by it, but maybe now people are realising how much he did for your team, was Nemanja Matic leaving. And Bakayoko, I think he's a very good player, but he's been very patchy with his start at Chelsea so far.
100% right, and you know, anytime I hear like discussions like that, I see it in terms of like a spectrum. So for example, let's say Matic could be like 15% of the reason, and then small reasons like Costa leaving and the dark arts would be like another 5% each added on top. But I think 50% of the reason for me is always going to be obviously the system that's played. And you're 100% right, there's teams of coaches and you know, they analyze everything, you know, hours and hours of footage. But you know, for example, I see the same mistakes being made. You know, last season especially, I was very critical sometimes of our defending, and I tended to notice that when we do end up conceding goals, a lot of times it's from counter-attacks. Now, last season it wasn't too much from counter-attacks, but last season especially, we kept conceding from set pieces, and it's always that cross play to the far post that would catch everyone out, and we can see from headed opportunities. The games against Spurs, I mean, they scored 4 goals against us from headers, from open play, which is un-Chelsea like, and that was just the first crack. And then of course that gap on the left hand side with Alonso and Cahill, because they don't fully complement each other. And of course I'm sure there's people analysing the tactics that probably see what the issues are, but then it comes down to the manager and team selection. Now I make this point about Gary Cahill. I feel that sometimes people misunderstand what I'm trying to say. It's not that the guy is awful. You know, this guy helps us win the Champions League. He's got very good attributes. Of course, it's attacking his set pieces, positioning in central areas. He's not getting caught offside. He's decent in the air as well, but again, when you're playing this system, it's imperative that your wide defenders are comfortable pushing out wide. Why? Because they usually have to cover the wing backs, and for you to play wide, you have to be good at one-on-one defending. People running at you with the ball. Now, that's something Cahill can't do. And what does he do to counter the fact that he's not comfortable doing that? And because he's susceptible to being under pressure, he tends to stay deeper. Now, who's that affecting? That's affecting Alonso, because the guy doesn't have any recovery pace at all. He's not like an Ashley Cole or Aspie in defence anyway. So with him not having that support, it's going to make his job even harder. And then that gap gets bigger. Opposition teams realise, oh, we can start building a tactic to try and stretch him. And then this is why I blame the manager, because again, I don't understand this. We know what football's like. Managers have favourites, preferences, whatever. But then when you can say your preference has an effect on the whole team, because football is a team game. I always say this. You've got to complement each other's strengths and weaknesses. So if you've got a guy here, it doesn't mean you're bad if you don't suit or complement the system. It just means you don't complement how the manager wants us to play. And I feel this is what Conte's big issue has been this season. He's adapting players to fit his system instead of doing what he was doing last year and changing it to suit them. Cesc Fabregas, another example. This guy is playing box to box. Do you really want Cesc running to help the attack and coming back to defend? Now, he is much better defensively than people give credit, but that's not his job.
No, yeah. He made Cesc Fabregas made his name in football in my eyes of being, I wouldn't call him a number 10, but he was an attacking midfield player. He was creative. He can thread the ball through the eye of a needle. I mean, in his later days at Arsenal and his early stages at Barcelona, man was scoring between 15 and 25 goals a season. So for me, that's where you want him playing. And if you don't have it, I feel a bit sorry for Cesc Fabregas at Chelsea, because he's done well there. He's had some great games. That second season under Jose Mourinho, I thought he was brilliant. But that was when he was playing in a position where he was creating, where he was threading. I mean, the amount of goals he created for Diego Costa.
Season, he could have beat the record if Jose wasn't so negative in that second half. But this is what I'm talking about now. You're getting him doing unfamiliar things, not letting him get in those key positions where he normally affects things. And now people will say, oh, Fabregas this, Fabregas that. But no, you're the manager. You've seen by now you're not getting the same type of performances that you get, especially on top when Baka isn't helping him out at all. If Matic was there, like he was doing his job last season, he was that balance in the team where he's very intelligent, which he got no credit for, similar to like Mikel back in the day. He would have helped out Fabregas a lot more, so that problem's exasperated even more. And what's happened now, which is professional football, you know, you do get found out tactically. This is why you don't see in the history of football the same team using the same system forever, because you know how to counter that. And now at Chelsea, teams have realised it's very easy to stop the wing backs getting forward. If you press them in the man marking system, you've basically done the job. And also, if you man mark their front three and outnumber them defensively, they can't get the ball, they can't build anything. And that's why we can see goals.
Well, yeah, exactly. Well, last season when you beat us in this reverse fixture 4-0, I did a sort of preview to the game. I think it was like October time last year. And I was looking at the way your fullbacks were playing. You'd gone on this good run. And one way of pushing fullbacks backwards, or at least making them think about what they're doing, is by your fullbacks also pushing forward, because it's then about who dominates the ball in the middle. So it becomes a different challenge. So if, for instance, if our fullbacks push on beyond yours when we're in possession, it makes them drop back. It makes it harder to counter because they're in a deeper position. Man United didn't do that last year. If you watch the majority of that game, we sat in a system where, obviously, we played with a flat back four, but our fullbacks didn't get forward. They sat deep marking your fullbacks, which meant we had no attacking outlets going forward. We were outnumbered when we tried to get the ball up there. Obviously, the goal after about 40 odd seconds didn't help, and then that's a bit of a freak when a goal goes in there early. It skewed the game somewhat, but I was disappointed that we didn't press in the right areas and that our fullbacks didn't push forward to make your fullbacks, Alonso and Moses at the time, stay backwards. And as you say, teams have to keep reinventing themselves, and it's the reason why Jurgen Klopp's never going to win anything at Liverpool, anything of any substance, Premier League or the Champions League. It's why Wenger is past it, because it's the same thing week in, week out, whether they're winning, losing, drawing, whether they've been sussed out, found out, or they're flying. It's the same approach, and people learn how to nullify you. And Liverpool, the easiest system to beat. Give them more than 60% of the ball, ensure that you've got a solid 5 men in midfield and a solid bank of 4 at the back. Don't allow very much space, and 90% of the time they don't win. That's how you stop Liverpool. So, I mean, it's a full... and I'm not a specialist tactician within football. I just watch games, then I read the statistics, then I rewatch the game again and go, there you have it. You know, Man United started it, Wolverhampton Wanderers in the FA Cup did it to a T, and every team since has done it. And it's why when Spurs, I know we're going off topic slightly, but when Spurs beat them recently, Spurs' record against Liverpool has been poor of late, because Spurs were one of the few teams that would still open up against them every time. Arsenal open up against them every time. They kept on getting beat. This time round, Spurs sat back, absorbed pressure like Man United did in the game before. They just counter-attacked well. Like, people said that Man United were negative against them. And we might do the same thing against you, because you have been susceptible to counter-attacks. It's not negative. It's, well, this is what catches the guy out. If you fight Amir Khan in boxing, let him have 3 or 4 rounds where he's throwing all the punches and he's moving. Because Amir Khan gets tired after 3 or 4 rounds. His speed slows down. He then has no knockout power at all. And you know, if you've got a punch on you, you land one big one on his chin and he's got chicken legs. And that's what you do to Liverpool. Chelsea have been susceptible to that this year as well. Absorb the pressure, be negative. The only thing Man United have to make sure they do against Chelsea on Sunday, if they are to win, which we didn't do against Liverpool, is actually be able to pass the ball out in a counter-attack. We were so poor on the ball against Liverpool, we couldn't counter. So everyone said, oh, you're not trying to win. Well, no, we were trying to win, we just couldn't do it. Against Spurs, though, we had the chances more than them, and we only finished one of them. We should have finished more. And against you, I think that will be the style. It will be to try and nullify your fullbacks. It will be to try and absorb your pressure and then counter with the pace we now have in our side, which didn't exist at the same level and quality a year ago. However, not convinced we're going to beat you, because our history at Chelsea, at Stamford Bridge, for the last 30 years or so, in my lifetime, 32 years old, I've been to watch Man United play at Stamford Bridge it's my most visited away ground. I've been there maybe 8 or 9 times across all competitions, and I have very few happy memories. Maybe the Champions League win we had there, or I think Rooney scored 1-0, maybe it was. That was obviously very happy. Coming back to draw 3-3 with you from 3-0 down in recent years, and the only other time we've beaten you in recent Premier League games is when we beat you 3-2, but you had 9 men, and we were 2-0 up, and you then came back and you were going to beat us, and you had 2 men sent off, and then we scored an offside goal. That's how poor, and that was under Sir Alex Ferguson, our greatest ever manager, with our best teams that we've seen in 40 years, and we still struggle at Chelsea. You're a bona fide bogey team. So I know Man United fans won't want to hear this, but I am slightly pessimistic about the outcome of this game, because often it doesn't matter what form we're in or what form Chelsea have been in. I don't know whether it's the stadium saps our energy, the colour of the kits, your boring chants, just Chelsea, Chelsea, whatever it is, right? I don't know what it is about Stamford Bridge. It does something to Manchester United. Of course, I hope for different things. I know how we can beat you. I know what Jose Mourinho will try and get what I believe he'll try and get his team to do to beat you. But I can't see it happening. I just see you beating us 1 or 2-0, and it's just going to be frustrating. I just all I think and feel, you're going to beat us 1 or 2-0, and then, you know, be an happy day for Chelsea fans. You'll be back to your same problems a week later, but I just can't see Man United winning at all.
Talking about that match preview where we beat you guys 4-0 when you guys came to the Bridge, and you know what? I think this was what really helped my channel at the start, because I actually predicted that we were going to win 4-0, and I told people exactly how we were going to win, because we were going to win the battle out wide. Our wing backs were going to get forward because of how obviously Mourinho will set the team up, and it was to be the case. But of course, when we guys played you in the FA Cup, yeah, you had that sending off which didn't help, but at the time, I think that's when Mourinho really figured out how to play against us, and I'm not going to be surprised that you know, I will see United probably press up a bit high at times and units to really stop our back three from playing out. And I think they're going to try and give us possession out wide and keep it compact in the middle, because they're thinking, well, if the wing backs got the ball, their options are to put a cross in. Phil Morata is going to get outmanned by every United player in the books, or just pass it back to midfield so they can just recycle and do it again. And I think Matic is going to have a big game. I know there's going to be a plan on Hazard. You know, Mourinho especially is the type of manager that likes to have a dedicated plan for certain players. You know, best player. Like, for example, when he was at Inter Milan and he got the likes of Zanetti and Cambiasso and Mota to really nullify Messi out the entire game. So I think it's going to be hard for us, because with Chelsea too, when Hazard isn't in the game, we do struggle. You know, there aren't.
Yeah. You might see Herrera put another job on him in terms of trying to keep him out of the game, and he did that brilliantly at Old Trafford. Got himself sent off, obviously, at Stamford Bridge, as you mentioned. That'll be a way of doing it. Again, there are ways that it can happen. I just feel like, as you mentioned, at Stamford Bridge, there have been many games where we've been the better team, even, and you've still found a way to beat us, and that's, maybe it's just history that's playing on me. There's actually one of the games, like away at Liverpool and away at Chelsea. Winning the league's the most important thing to me, the same as yourself as a Chelsea fan. But when I look at individual games, the two I want to win the most are away at Liverpool and away at Chelsea. They mean more to me than any other games in the Premier League. One, due to rivalry, in terms of the rivalry between United and Liverpool, and the Chelsea one because we just don't do it often enough. And you know, my son's nearly 3 years old and he's never seen us win at Stamford Bridge yet. And I don't want him to become a teenager before it happens, you know. So I hope we can deliver, and I hope we can do it. But I think it would be an enthralling game. Maybe not in terms of excitement, but certainly in terms of tactical prowess. I mean, if you guys defend like you did against Roma, though, I mean, if three of your centre-backs or three of your defenders go chasing after one player, I mean, I couldn't believe I saw that. I mean, and literally communicate. I mean, John Terry would never have allowed that to happen. He would have, I mean, he would have stopped running himself. But I was watching it, and you know when you watch a replay back, you don't know I didn't know what's going to happen. I saw all three chasing him, and I thought it was going to be like they all fouled him one after the other and gave a penalty away. Then when I saw that there was no cover behind them, I was like, what possessed all three of you to not? But I mean, again, if you defend like that, you've got problems. If in the air you defend poorly, I mean, one saving grace probably is that Pogba and Fellaini are out, because from set piece wise, we're a colossally big team now, which Jose tends to build. But obviously, if diagonal balls and crosses are put in with any quality to the far posts, Lukaku could punish Chelsea from those areas. He's due a goal. He needs them against big sides, and maybe it's just written in the stars for him to bang in a brace or a hat-trick against his former club that he was meant to re-sign for in the summer. But yeah, those things are just, as a United fan, you'd love to see that happen. But personally, I don't think we'll win. But, you know, I'd quite happily take a scrappy, you know, 1-0 win. Ashley Young sort of shoots, it deflects off 4 players and goes in. You know, I don't really care who scores as long as we get the 3 points, because keeping in contact with Manchester City is the most important thing at the moment, because they are getting a run on all of us, and I was hoping for like the greatest Premier League season ever, and I knew City would be good, but I didn't know they'd be this damn good, where the rest of us were being completely, my prediction would be, said that between 6th and top there'd be no more than about 15-16 points. That's already looking stupid, because Man City just don't look like anybody can beat them. So yeah,
I mean, a lot of good points as always. I don't know. I think this is going to be a draw tomorrow. I have a feeling that in the last 20 minutes, no team is really going to try their hardest to really push to win the game. I think they'll both take a draw. I think especially Conte will take it now with some of the pressure that he's coming under. I don't know. Honestly, from a fan's point of view, I'm not as excited. Obviously, I'm going to the game tomorrow. You know, when we do play big games, other than that United game last season, there aren't many classics. It's a completely different point, but Premier League, like, you know, 8 years ago even, every time a big team played each other was an event, because, you know, it was a fantastic match. There was a lot of dramatic moments and, you know, a lot of drama. The past few years, you know, with the tactical approaches a lot of managers take up to try and, you know, safety first, it's not really a spectacle for fans that much. So, you know.
Yeah, it's sometimes when you don't expect them, they come, and other times when you anticipate an amazing event, it can be a bit of a letdown. But I think what's changed in the Premier League over the last 3 or 4 years is the volume of sides that could conceivably win the Premier League. And I think that Arsenal may be sitting out there on the peripherals, but you've kind of got 6 teams now that are very good, that can all beat each other on their day, where before it was only ever a 2-horse, sometimes a 3-horse race. And when Chelsea and United were the best 2 teams in the league from sort of 2005 2005 to around sort of 2010, that sort of period. You had Arsenal that got involved once or twice and Liverpool once or twice, but as a general rule, it was our two teams. You could afford to go at each other in games because losing, it wasn't always the end of the world. I mean, depending on when in the season you were playing, if that makes sense, because our teams we nearly always used to beat the smaller sides. It wouldn't really matter. Man United and Chelsea's record against the other top 4 and top 6 sides was always brilliant. So you could kind of afford to go at those games more. Now, I don't think there's that luxury as much because if this is, I think, Jose's philosophy right now. If he opens up away against all the big sides and he loses to them all, yeah, the media might say, well done for entertaining us, but he walks away with no points. And all teams now have so much quality in them. If you look at the teams now, like Chelsea and Man United have had better sides in the last 10 years than they have now, but they're both growing to something this is probably Arsenal's best side in the last decade. It's the best Spurs side ever. It's the best Man City side ever. So you've got teams now that have got their best teams they've ever had in the Premier League era. Man United are trying to get back to that, but we've still got a very good side. Chelsea are trying to get back to their best, still got a very good side, but there's so much more competitiveness than there's ever been before. You know, Man City have never been this good, Spurs never been this good, best Arsenal side in the last decade or so, best Liverpool side in the last decade or so, and I know Gerrard and Torres had some good teams, but in terms of how damaging they can be if you open up against them. And I think that when you look at that, it can change the mindset of a manager. Do you know what? Away from home, I'm going to go for draws. I'm going to play a game where we might win, but we probably won't lose. And then when I'm at home at Old Trafford, I'll beat them all. And if you do that, it's Sir Alex Ferguson's philosophy. If you draw away and win at home against your title rivals, you have a very good opportunity of winning the league. And maybe that won't happen this year because Man City, as I say right now, they're the best team in the world. Club-wise, there's no one playing their kind of football at the moment, but we're 10 games into the season. That could all change by game 20. So, you know, you just need to be in touching distance so that if they do have a blip, you can get to them. And that's the big fear for you guys. If you lose Sunday, you potentially could be 11 points off the top, and that's a long 11 points against Man City.
Thing before the season started, I didn't realise how quickly we'd get snuffed out tactically, but to me this is where, you know, Conte needs to make better changes. I'm going to be releasing a video suggesting why I think 4-3-3 should be the formation we go to now, because the reason why we lose games is the minute we lose control in a game, it's completely over. And of course the other points we were saying about the Premier League as well, yeah, I do understand why the approach has changed. This is definitely, you know, we're definitely seeing the effects of Premier League money because the smaller teams now, nearly every team in this country has international players playing. 10 years ago, that wasn't the case, and of course it makes it much more difficult in that regards. But even then, tactical reasons, Mourinho, I remember the old Mourinho, you know, we played Barcelona, that's when Messi gets sent off, Del Horno gets a red card. Now, Mourinho today would just probably bring on another midfield player and soak the pressure up. What he did was he played Robben up front with Drogba, just to force them back, and we played them with 10 men, and it was even. Any team could have won it in the end, and that really showed you the dominance and like the genius of Mourinho, because he was the one making those bold, brave, tactical decisions that were always...
Absolutely. I mean, that Chelsea side, I was reading some stuff on the internet, but I mean, that Chelsea side was so good. And I think that's the point that people tend to miss now, that this Man United team has cost lots of money, but that's because of the market that we now find ourselves in. This Man United side is good. It's going to get better. But when I'm really honest with myself and I look at it and I'm like, well, it's not about how many of my players would get into your team, because that's horses for courses. It depends on the formation and the system and what type of player that you need. But it's about, can you outgun somebody? And do you know what? There's so many teams that you just mentioned that have quality players. There's sometimes you pick them up for 10 million quid. Sometimes you pick them up for £4 million from MK Dons. Other times, when you want someone, you've got to pay £75 million for them. And Jose is trying to create a team and a squad that can dominate teams like his Chelsea side did for a couple of years. Can dominate teams like he's in a different way that his Inter Milan team did. They obviously didn't dominate Barcelona on the ball, but you don't do that. No one dominated Barcelona on the ball. So basically, overall, look, Jose Mourinho, Conte, we're all in the same boat. We're trying to create teams that are superior to everybody else in our league, and it doesn't matter how good or or bad a manager you are to some extent. It's harder to do now. When Chelsea first came on the scene with their money, the only team that could get anywhere near them financially and compete was Manchester United. Now with the new Premier League TV money, with other European sides, whether it's RB Leipzig, Paris Saint-Germain, whomever it may be, there is so much money involved now, you can't buy all the best players. Sometimes you have to make shift. Sometimes you have to play in a different style to nullify a different team. The world of football has evolved so much, but the media will put the pressure on Conte, the pressure on Jose Mourinho, because it picks up and it sells newspapers. But for me, I'm just going to get behind Jose. I want us to win tomorrow. Even though I can't see it happening, I'll still be there cheering for 2 hours or so, hoping that we do it.
Perfect. But you guys, that's going to end the match preview for the game tomorrow. Of course, you guys, definitely please subscribe to the Football Terrace. Great football opinions, fantastic football analysis. And if you want to hear some more insight behind the scenes in football, it's a perfect channel for that as well. But anyway, you guys, thank you for watching today's match preview for the Chelsea vs Manchester United game. I'm Nini FC. This is Blue Lions TV. Signing out.